There it is. Dude, I do Zoom calls all the time. I'm terrible at recording when I should be recording most of them, but I just always forget. So thanks for the reminder, bud. Okay. So yeah, again, so like Joe brought up, we are going to record this. So if it's something that you want us to send to you after the fact so that you can kind of refer back to, we can do that. And then there's also a lot of other people that for one reason or another aren't going to be able to be on this call tonight. So we will have it recorded. What I'll probably do is I'll make a private YouTube video. That way it can only be seen by whoever we send it to. So we'll probably do that, but okay. Quite a few people in here. So again, just make sure you're muted. So, okay, let's kind of get started. So what we're going to be talking about is the concept of replacing your mortgage with what's called a first position or a first lien home equity line of credit, or otherwise known as HELOC. Okay. So what you can do is you can actually get rid of your mortgage altogether and replace it with a home equity line of credit. I know that sounds kind of weird to some people, but it can be done. And if your numbers work and you understand how to use it and you have the right product, it can do wonders for you. Okay. Yeah. So this is something that I came across a little over 3 years ago. So long story short, my wife and I, we were getting ready to sell the first home that we bought. So we bought our first home in 2006. It was 2017. We were getting ready to sell that home. We were on a 15-year mortgage, and we were about 5 years away from paying that house off. So I was pretty pumped about that. The majority of our monthly mortgage payment, was going towards principal. So we were paying that thing down pretty quick. So, but we had a growing family, so we needed to upgrade, get a bigger house. So that's kind of where we were at. So that kind of bothered me. Understanding how a 30-year mortgage works and starting that process over. So that's kind of what led me down the research hole, trying to figure out ways to, potentially pay the house off sooner than later. Okay. So that's what got me started. So got on YouTube, watched a ton of videos. There's a bunch of people that are talking about this. Some people call it velocity banking. There's other terms for it, but kind of went down that wormhole and started to learn the math on it, how to run numbers, and just looking at different ways to consolidate debt and pay debt down faster. So, and then I came across a company called Replace Your Mortgage. Okay. Was very intrigued by that because I wanted to get rid of my mortgage altogether if I could. I just never knew there was a way that you could do that. So learned about this company, was kind of leery about it. It sounded too good to be true. So typically, if something sounds too good to be true, it typically is. But I kept looking into it, kept researching it, and ultimately pulled the trigger and got rid of my mortgage in early 2018. And then the rest is history. So that's kind of a little bit of my background on how I came to find out about this strategy. So Joe, if you want to touch on how long you've been doing this, what kind of brought you to your understanding of this, and then kind of go from there.
Sure. So full disclosure, I am not a fan of Zoom meetings really at all. So I'm going to do my best to kind of approach this like you are sitting across the table from me, and we're just kind of talking, and I'm telling you my experience of what I found. So about this time last year, I noticed one thing. So 2020 was, it was like the twilight zone, right? Well, I knew one thing going into whenever everything shut down. This was going to be a moment where the rich are going to get richer and the poor are going to get poorer. But there was nothing I could do about it. I was like, I know it's right here, but I was just trying to preserve as much capital as I could. I didn't know if I was going to have a job. I didn't know about, all this stuff's going on. And so then the interest rates, right? They just went plummeted. They went, through the floor. And so I was like, well, we had 18 years left on our mortgage. And I was like, well, I mean, I locked in I did the responsible thing, right? I locked in that low rate. It was like a 2 point something ridiculous. And, and I was about 7 days away from signing the paper. So I was in it, and I got a call from a friend who lived out in Hawaii, and I was talking about it, and he was like, hey, I know you can kind of sometimes entertain, you're open-minded to different methods. And he said, out here, a lot of the wealthy people don't actually have mortgages. They use home equity lines of credit, like in what they call first position. And he was like, I don't know much about it, but it seems awesome. A lot of my wealthy friends out here, tell me whenever I do get a house to do that. And he said, and there's a company that they name dropped, and it was Replace Your Mortgage. So just like my buddy Adam here, Wormhole, YouTube, Velocity Banking, all the stuff, found my way to Replace Your Mortgage. I did the same thing. I set up a call. I really thought too good to be true. And yeah, with 7 days to go until I signed my refinance papers, I opted to pump the brakes on that. And I couldn't deny the math. I just couldn't deny the math. I was gonna refi to a 30-year from 18, and I was gonna pocket like $150 a month extra. Like, wow, what a game changer. And so with this, a lady on the other end of the line was like, yeah, your home's gonna be paid off in 6 years. Now, granted, remember, I'm giving her my numbers off my Dave Ramsey board, y'all. I had a huge board in my room, and if it came out of my account, if it's 99 cents for Apple iCloud, if it came out of my account, it was on that whiteboard. And so I have all my numbers up there, right? Like I had my money in my little envelope. I had my envelope system. People weren't accepting cash at the store because COVID, it was driving me nuts. And so all this stuff was going on. And she tells me I can pay my home off in 6 years. I'm like, everything changed. Everything changed for me right there. And so I couldn't deny the math. I didn't fully understand this. Truth be told, someone actually showed me this about 6-7 years ago. And I remember the guy on the end of the line was telling me about this. And I took it to somebody at my church, and I did a terrible job explaining, hey, he wants me to take out a home equity line of credit. And he just pumped the brakes on me right there. He was like, no, don't do that. I'm like, I don't know. It was like about replacing the mortgage. He was like, hey, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. And if you don't understand the math, just keep doing what you're doing. That stuff definitely works, but this is way better for sure. And so I remember I called the guy back, let him know I wasn't going to do it. And he said, man, if you could just trust me, I can show you how to be extremely successful. And I told him no. I was going to stick with what I knew. And so it came around this time. I didn't fully understand it at first, but I couldn't deny the math. I couldn't deny the numbers. So I said, I'm going to commit myself to learning how this works. And that's what I did. And it has changed our lives financially like nothing ever could. It is ridiculous. So you get to the point where you say, everybody that has joined this group that I've introduced it to, they said this, they all have this in common. Joe, it sounds too good to be true. It just sounds too good to be true. And then they sign up. And then about 2 weeks later, they say, how in the world doesn't everyone do this? And so I have to remind them that it's too good to be true. So that's kind of my story.
Yeah, no, that's good. I hear that probably, I wouldn't say every day, but multiple times a week.
Yeah.
And, again, like I'm the same way. I'm very skeptical. I'm very conservative. I'm not a risky person financially. So, if something sounds too good to be true, typically it is. But when you actually look into something and you run the math and you understand how that works and the numbers are what the numbers are, sometimes you just got to take action. So that's kind of, yeah, I'm glad that you kind of broke that down, man. It's very, very common. I hear similar stories on a regular basis, but okay. So in short, elementary knowledge on what this is okay. So you have a bank that provides this first position home equity line of credit. Okay, and again, we'll talk about how the numbers work, but if your numbers meet expectations and meet the criteria, okay, what this lender will do is they will pay off your mortgage in full. Okay, so you have your mortgage over here with whatever lender that is, you have the balance that you owe. Okay, and this new bank or this new lender, they will pay them off. Okay, so the mortgage is completely gone out of the picture. Okay, so whatever your balance is, they take that balance and they move it over into a different financing tool, and that's the first position HELOC. Okay, so very, very simply, it's simply a refinance. Okay.
Yeah.
So if you've ever done a refinance from mortgage to mortgage, it's very similar as far as the process. So you're going to get pre-approved. Okay, so you're going to submit some information to the lender. They're going to pre-approve you, and then they're going to really break down and get all your information, so your W-2s, tax returns. They're going to run your credit, same kind of stuff. Okay. And then another cool thing too is, let's say you have some third-party debts. Let's say you have some credit card balances, or in some circumstances, you even may have a car loan. Okay. And if you have the room in your house as far as equity, you can consolidate those. And sometimes it'll actually speed the payoff even faster, because if you can eliminate that payment, you're increasing your cash flow, which is more money that's going to be rolling the balance down. So we'll kind of break that down a little bit too. But to start, what I want to do is I'm going to share my screen. Okay, and we're just going to kind of run through some basic things here. So first thing, okay, and I hope everyone can see this. Joe, can you see this?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so plain and simple, what is a first position HELOC? Well, a HELOC stands for home equity line of credit. Okay. Whoever, yeah, thanks. Yeah, just make sure you guys are muted. Just makes it a little easier. Okay, but it stands for home equity line of credit. Okay, that's what it stands for. Now, one of the cool things about this is it's an open-ended account. Okay, so an open-ended account means this. It means that you can put money in and that you can take money back out if you want. It's very, very liquid, similar to a checking account or a savings account. Okay, so unlike a mortgage, right? A mortgage is not open-ended. A mortgage is close-ended. So if you're making mortgage payments, and especially if you're making additional principal payments on a mortgage, if you need that money back out, you can't get it back out. It's trapped. So unless you do a refinance, you go through that whole process, okay, you can't get that money back out. That's why a lot of people are hesitant to throw a lot of their reserve money towards paying their mortgage down, because you can't access it. So the HELOC is open-ended. So you can feel very, very comfortable and safe to throw large chunks of money at it, because if you need that money back out, you can get it back out. Okay. So it is not a typical HELOC. So I kind of touched on this earlier, but most people's understanding of a HELOC is what's called a second position HELOC. So you have your mortgage over here with whatever lender you're using. Okay. You're making that payment, and then you have available equity in your house, and you'll go to a different lender and you'll say, hey, I want to pull out some equity from my house. Maybe you want to do a home repair or whatever. And that bank will be in second position because the mortgage holder is in first position. Okay. So again, you'll go to another lender. They'll be in second lien position. They'll give you a HELOC, a smaller HELOC. So you'll still have your mortgage, you'll still have that payment, and then you'll have a separate entity over here. That's what most people are, their understanding of a HELOC is. Okay. And again, clarifying this, okay, the lender is first in line. Okay. So if you understand how banks work in any form or fashion, banks love to be in first lien position. Okay, they like to have properties collateralized, and they don't want anyone else in the way. So anytime a lender is in first lien position, that's considered an asset to them. Okay. So typically it's with a mortgage. They can also be in first lien position with a HELOC, and that's what we're talking about. Okay.
Yeah.
So from a bank's perspective, that's the safest position to be in, first in line. Okay. And again, safer for the lender, and also it's safer for the homeowner. Okay. So that's kind of the basics on what a first position HELOC is. Okay. So let me get out of here. Let's see here. Okay, and I'm going to bring up another screen here. For some reason, it's not letting me get out of here. Hold on one second here.
And Adam, while you're working on that, I'll fill in something here. A lot of times people will bring up, well, don't banks freeze home equity lines of credit on HELOCs? And so people are like, well, they froze mine, or, like the economy went south. So it's about pretty rare when it comes to first positions. When they talk about that, they're talking about that second lien position, because that is a liability to the bank. They're in second place. They're the first lien. They know they're going to be paid. They're the one that's going to get paid first. They don't like being in second place. That gives them a liability. They will, there's at times they will freeze those. But even though that's pretty rare. But yeah, when it comes to first lien, if anybody tells you that, that's really it's just not going to be the case.
Yep.
Anyway, looks like you got your screen up
here.
Yep,
I got it. Yeah. Yeah. Just to touch on what Jill said, if you talk to people, you will hear this quite a bit, that why Helocs are risky. Okay. They might freeze the HELOC. They might reduce my line. Only in second lien position. Okay. So back in like 2007, 2008, 2009, when home values dropped, those banks that were in second lien position were like, they were scared because, if let's say the homeowner isn't making their mortgage payment. Okay. Guess who gets to take the house first? Not the bank in second lien position, the bank that's in first lien position. So just to carry on with that, but okay. So who can benefit from this? Okay. So we are only talking about residential homeowners. Okay. This is not something you can do on a commercial property. Okay. So residential homeowners, and that can range from just your primary address. You can do it on rental properties. So single family, duplexes, triplexes, quads, that's kind of where it ends, because anything above 4 units is considered a commercial property. Okay. So you can get them on rental properties. You can get them on vacation homes, second homes. Okay. So that's one of the main stipulations. It's only for residential properties. Okay. And in most cases, you want to have at least 20% equity in your house for the bank to do it. Some banks will allow you to do a first lien HELOC if you only have 10%. We do have lenders that do that. But safe bet, you want to have around 20. Okay. Now, so going back to, so whoever's not muted, if you could mute your computer or phone, that would be great. Okay. Okay. So who can benefit from this? So free and clear homeowners can benefit from this. Okay. So if your house is paid off, okay, for one, good job. You've paid your house off. That's excellent. You don't have a mortgage payment. That's increasing your cash flow. That's less money that's leaving you every month. So good job. Okay. Now, one thing I always challenge to homeowners that are free and clear is, wouldn't it be nice if you could at least have some access to the equity in your house?
Yeah.
Not saying you have to use it, but wouldn't it be nice if it was there and available? Okay. So for me personally, even if my house is paid off, I will always have a home equity line of credit on it, because I want to have access to that money. That's my money. This is my house. I own it. Okay. So again, even if you don't plan to use it, and if you have a zero balance, you don't owe any interest. So just something to think about. Okay. This is a biggie. Okay. people that have positive cash flow. So what that means is you have to make more than you spend. There has to be a spread there, okay? And the bigger that spread is, the better that this works, okay? So that's a very, very important thing. You have to have a positive cash flow spread, okay? If you don't, and you're living paycheck to paycheck, then we need to have another conversation. And I do help people with that just for the heck of it, because I like to see, people get out of the hole. But this is a biggie, okay? Positive cash flow, make more than you spend. And the more consistent you are with that, the better off you are, okay? This is for people who want to pay off their house, okay? So who doesn't want to pay off their house, okay? There's multiple ways to do it. This is the most efficient way to do it. It puts you in the most control, okay? It gives you the most authority. You get to kind of play banker a little bit, and that's kind of fun, okay? This is for people who are wanting to rehab real estate, whether it's their primary address, rental properties, okay? You can leverage equity from one property to use it for another property, okay? So you can transfer equity from one to the other. Well, you can't do that if it's not liquid, so it's very, very good for that. And these are all things that I've done. I haven't paid my house off, but I've used some equity to buy a rental property and rehab it. So I help people kind of talk through that too. It can benefit investors. It can benefit business owners. But the biggie, I always come back to this, is people that have positive cash flow. So making more than you spend. That's kind of the kicker. Okay. Okay. Joe, do you want to touch on any of that stuff at all?
Yeah, I think a lot of that I'm trying to put myself back to like learning this for the first time.
Yeah. Right.
This can seem really confusing. That's the easy thing about a mortgage is here's your payment. Mm-hmm. Here's how much you pay. It's click and go. It's made very simple for the consumer, but believe me, you're getting ripped off, and hopefully you start to see how that works. So don't let this overwhelm you. Remember that the numbers are just going to be the numbers, and all of this stuff you can figure out after. You'll see, you will get some real data for you to look at. And so take all of this stuff with a grain of salt, maybe zero in on a few things that really highlight to you, but don't get overwhelmed. So if you came in this meeting, not, caring about investing or not caring about, business or anything like that, don't get tangled up in the weeds of that. Focus, literally just zero in on the things that, hey, I can pay my home off in 5 to 7 years. That's why I joined this. So that's what I'm going to zero in on. And you can figure the stuff out later. It's a process. So don't let it overwhelm you. But yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I meant to kind of touch on that earlier. This is very, very simple. It's very, very simple. It's just different. So that's kind of the hard part is just taking a step back and just being open-minded to think differently. And if there's something better, you might want to look into it. But it is very, very simple. It's actually much simpler than like the way I used to do things, for sure, with a mortgage. So thanks for bringing that up, man. That's an excellent point. Okay, so I'll touch on these few things here. So what it can be used for, like I said, you can use it for home renovations. So if let's say you have your primary address and you want to do some upgrades, okay? If you go to a bank or lender, what they're going to try to tell you to do is to get a home equity loan, okay? That's what they're going to tell you. So you're going to have your mortgage payment and you're going to have a home equity loan payment. So you're going to have a bigger overall payment, okay? You don't want to do that. And I've had many people that were getting ready to do that. And when I talked to them about this, we kind of put the brakes on. And now that they've done this, they're in a much better position. But you can use it for home renovations, debt consolidation. It's very powerful for that. So again, if you have some high interest rate credit card balances, even if you have a car loan or something like that, and those are payments that are leaving you every month, you can roll those in to the HELOC if you have the available equity. And you can eliminate those payments that are going away from you every month. And then you can redirect those towards paying that debt down. And a lot of times it'll actually accelerate the pay down. It's very, very interesting. Okay. So debt consolidation is great for that. There's really no better way as far as paying your house off faster. There just isn't. No matter how you slice it. And I've tried. I've overanalyzed everything.
True.
Okay,
True.
so rapid home payoff, liquidity. Liquidity basically just means that you have access to money. Like people put money in a bank account because it's liquid. That just means that they can get to it quickly. They can put it back in, take it out, right? It's very, very open and liquid. Okay, so kind of going back to people that have free and clear homes. Even if your home's not free and clear, it's, I always ask people this: are you in a better position with access to more money or less money? Okay. Yeah, it's kind of a no-brainer. It's good for self-financing. That's a little bit more advanced, but we can kind of get into that maybe on a one-on-one chat, but you can self-finance things through your HELOC. Okay. It's protection in volatile times. This has been huge lately. In the last year and a half, this has been huge. Okay. Having access to more money in hard times is safer. And having a lower minimum required payment, which is this next point, which is what you get with the HELOC, can save your butt too in hard times. Okay. So as most of you know that have a mortgage, your mortgage payment is typically principal, interest, property taxes, homeowners insurance. And it's all lumped into one big payment that doesn't change ever until the loan is paid off. So if you lose your job, things get tight. The bank does not care. You have to make that payment every single month. With a HELOC, your only minimum required payment in most cases is just interest.
Yep.
Okay. So if money's not coming in like it typically is, it puts you in a better position. Okay.
Which by the way, Adam, just to insert, a lot of times you'll find that interest only payment can actually be automatically withdrawn from the actual line. You never even notice it happened.
Yep. No, that's a good point, man. That's a safety button too, to have that in place. Okay. So great point, man. And the other one is just, you can use it to build wealth. That's a little bit more advanced too. But you can leverage the equity for other investments to create more income. That kind of stuff you can do too. Okay. Okay. So this is kind of what, so if you guys have questions too, put them in the chat. We might start answering them as we go, but if we don't, we'll try to save time at the end to kind of answer those questions. Okay. So we're going to touch on this last point, and then we're going to kind of get into some numbers. Okay. So this is what we're going to look at. Okay. So this is our little case study. So easy peasy. Don't overanalyze these numbers. We have a house that's worth $450,000. Okay. This person owes $300,000. So there's $150,000 spread right there of equity. Okay. Everyone can follow that. Okay. Now, this is where people get tripped up sometimes. So I'm really going to try to simplify this. Okay. But again, what happens is the lender that provides the HELOC. Okay. So let's pretend this is a mortgage scenario. Okay. This person owes $300,000. They go to a lender that provides the HELOC. That lender will pay that $300,000 mortgage company off. Okay. And then they'll bring this $300,000 balance from the mortgage into the HELOC. So that would be your starting balance in the HELOC. Okay. Now, another cool thing that the bank will do is they'll take your appraised value. Okay. So it's $450,000, and they'll give you a line of credit of up to 90% of that. We're going to use 80 because we're going to be conservative. Okay. So 80% of 450 is 360,000. Okay. So one way to think about it is like a credit card. Okay. Not that I'm a super huge fan of credit cards, but it's easy to understand. Pretend that you have a credit card on your house with a maximum line of 360,000. Okay. That's the easiest way to understand it. And say you owe $300,000 on your credit card. Okay. Just giving you a scenario so you can think about it. Okay. The difference between this And this is your liquidity. Okay. So you would have a $360,000 HELOC, and the difference between this number and whatever your balance is, whether your balance remains the same, whether it goes up, whether it goes down, whatever that spread is, that's liquidity. That's money that you have access to. Okay. So in this circumstance, right out of the gate, this person would have access to 60 grand. Okay. Okay. So we're going to pretend that this HELOC is at 4%. So this is something that people get tripped up a lot. They see this big number and they're like, ooh, I got to pay 4% on that. No, you're only paying interest off of the balance.
Yep.
Okay. So keep that in mind. And as your balance goes down every month, guess what else goes down? The interest that you owe. Okay. And we'll kind of dig into that when we go through some numbers here, but okay, just to break that down. So we're going to take a person, this person, their net monthly income's $8,010. Okay. That's what they're bringing in after tax every month. They happen to have 20 grand in savings. We're going to talk about why that's not a good thing in most cases, especially if you have this tool. Their monthly expenses are $39.90 a month. Okay. This does not include their mortgage payment because, again, when we replace the mortgage payment's gone. It's out of the picture. So, okay. And then their annual combined property taxes and homeowners insurance is $4 grand a year. They get a $4,000 tax return check every year. Okay. So this is what we're going to talk about when we get into this calculator. Okay. We're basically going to put in a starting balance. Okay. And again, that balance is 300,000. And we're going to put that in that this person is depositing $8,010 into their HELOC. Okay. So that was foreign to me when I first heard about this. I was like, what do you mean deposit money into the HELOC? Okay. We'll kind of touch on that in a minute, but what they're going to be doing is they're not going to hold money in a checking account. And in most cases, not even in a savings account. Okay. They're going to hold all that money in the HELOC. And what that's going to do, as an example, their balance is 300,000. The next day, say they deposit $8,000 in, just as an example. This would drop by $8,000. Okay, instantaneously. So the money that you put in reduces principal first. Okay, not interest. So that's, with a mortgage, you have a mortgage payment, you're paying all your interest up front. Okay, the bank's getting their money first. So we're just kind of flipping the switch on that. So, okay, and then every month they have expenses. This is another thing that I got really tripped up on early on. It's like, how do you pay expenses out of your HELOC? Well, again, it's a liquid, open-ended account, just like a savings account or a checking account. Okay, so you can put money in, you can take money out. Okay, so is that something you got tripped up on too, Joe, early on? I think that's pretty common when I talk to people. They just can't wrap their mind around that.
Absolutely. I was told the easiest way I can explain it, and even if it doesn't click, is okay. So currently you get direct deposited, your check comes in and it goes into a checking account. The way you have to think about this is you no longer have a checking account. Okay, so you would just mark out checking account and just replace HELOC. And you're going to put all your money in the HELOC. You put all your money in there, that suppresses that principal balance. And so it would be like putting all your money on your mortgage payment, except you can't do that because you can't get it back out. And so no one would do that. So on this, you're literally putting all your money on your house, and you're just taking out as you need to pay bills. And that way it suppresses that interest rate greatly. And that's the secret sauce. And on how the interest rate breaks down, I'll let Adam go into that. He's going to do it way better than I could explain. But yes, so once again, don't get too tripped up. Especially, I got tripped up on the appraised value, and okay, why is my HELOC at this? So all that is you take 450,000. What's 80% of that? Okay, that 80% of that is going to be $360,000. You owe 300,000, So you get to keep that $60,000 is yours. Like, so I'll preface it with this. This system's not for everyone. It is for, there's kind of like this thing, there's the three things that you have to have. You have to at least have, the example we were using here, at least 20% equity in your home. You have to be cash flow positive, and you have to have over a 680 credit score. Those are must, but there's a secret fourth thing you have to have, and that's common sense.
Yep.
Like this could be a death sentence to the wrong person, because you get a hold of $60,000 and all of a sudden you got, season tickets to Disney for the next 4 years, and you're spending way more now on frivolous things. You're buying new cars. That goes away quickly. So there is a fourth rule. You do have to still live smart. Don't be dumb. As the best advice I could say. Just don't be dumb. It could be a blessing or a curse. It's a lot of money to have at one time, and if you've never had that, it can do a lot of damage. It can also do a lot of good.
Yeah, no, that's a good point, man. That's it. I would say this is not for probably most people, to be honest,
Probably,
especially in America. But
yeah,
again, if you have the ability to save money, this is a wonderful thing to have, and it puts you in so much more control. But
yeah,
okay. So this is what I'm going to do here. So what we're going to do is we're going to kind of look at the calculations on this. Okay. So again, we just talked about the current balance being 300,000. Okay. So just to break down how this calculation works, it's very, 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 very simple. You have a starting balance. Okay. You have an interest rate, and we can change these numbers all day, but you have a balance, you have an interest rate, you have money going in, and you have money coming out. Okay. That's all you need to know. There's very, very simple. You have a balance, a rate, money going in, money coming out. Okay. So just to kind of break down the interest calculation on this. Okay. Just so you guys understand. Okay. So let's say we have $300,000. Okay. If you wanted to figure out how to calculate this, you would take the balance, you would multiply it by the interest rate. So 4%. Say, so annualized, if this balance remained the same for 12 months, it never went up, never went down. This is how much you would pay in interest over a year. Okay. So how the Heloc works is they take that and they divide that by 365. Okay. And that's what you're charged per day. So you're essentially being charged interest per day based off of whatever that balance is on that given day. So if you never interrupted this balance for a full year, you'd pay $32 a day in interest. Okay. So if you multiply that times 30, that's your interest only payment on this balance. Now, as you reduce this balance every month, this number will go down. Okay. But that's kind of the math on that. But okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at this. Okay. So if those numbers never change, if this person consistently put in $8,000, $8,010 every month, they pulled out $39.90 every month, those numbers never changed at all. Okay. That $300,000 balance would be paid off in 87 months. Okay. That's based off of a 4% interest rate. Okay. That's the math. So 87 months is divided by 12. Okay. That's 7 years, 7.25. Okay. Now, what I will say is this, everyone's situation is different. Okay. Some people will pay their house off in 2 or 3 years. Some people, it might take 13 or 14 years. Okay. It all depends on the numbers. It's very individualized, but okay. Now, this is what I like to look at. Okay. This really kind of reveals things to you. So, okay. So day one, the balance is 300. Okay. Month one, they deposit their $8,000. Okay. And they pull out their $39.90. Okay. So the math on that is this, you take this subtract the interest, subtract the charges, okay? That's your principal reduction. Okay, so in 1 month's time, they've gone from 300 to, let's call it 297. So that's $3,000 in 1 month.
So that's so good.
Okay. And what you see going on here is this. Okay. Again, going back to each month, you're being charged interest based off of your balance. So if your balance is going down every month, which it is, guess what else is going down? Your interest. Okay. So this additional money that is not being charged for interest is going where? It's going to this. So it just kind of snowballs every month. So, right, the less interest you're paying, the more principal reduction you have. Okay. So you get 12 months into this, you're a year into this. Okay. Your balance is down to 263 grand from 300,000. Okay. Woo. So your liquidity position is about 100 grand from 60 grand. Okay. Pretty powerful. Now, you need to factor this in too. Okay. And I've already ran the numbers. So with this, we're at 86 months. Okay. Now with the HELOC, right, you are responsible for paying your property taxes and your homeowner's insurance. But you want to be responsible for that. Okay. You want to hold on to that money rather than letting the bank hold on to that money every month. Okay. Yep. And guess what? Guess where you're going to let it sit? You're going to let it sit in here. So it's going to be working for you. Okay. That's another reason why banks love escrow accounts, because that's more money that they get to use. Okay. Banks are looking for cash flow. That's how they make money. So the more of your money they can collect every month, whether it's principal, interest, escrow account, whatever, that's more money that they can work with. So that's what they're concerned about. So we're kind of taking that away from them and putting it in our possession. So, yeah. But again, so what would happen is, and I ran the numbers, if this person combined every year their property taxes and homeowners insurance were about $4 grand, right? They would tick this balance up every 12 months about $4 grand. And that would extend this to 96 months. Okay. So every year they're taking out $4 grand. So they're bumping their HELOC balance up. But guess what happens the next month? It goes right back down. So there's little tiny ticks in this graph. So when I ran that out, it was at 96 months. That's not a big deal. Okay. Now, again, right, life happens. People have additional expenses. Maybe they make some overtime in. So these numbers are this is just a calculation based off of these numbers never changing. They may slightly fluctuate. Yeah. And we can illustrate that on a one-on-one basis. That's a little bit too much to get into now, but yeah, you can, say you need a $20,000 car. Well, you come down here, you take $20,000 out as an example. And you know what? I'm going to do that just to kind of, that's pretty quick. Okay. So let's do this. Let's say say month 16, this individual needs to buy a car and their price range is $20,000. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm saying whoops, actually that's backwards. I always get those mixed up. But what we're showing here is in month 16, we're taking out $20,000 from the HELOC. So you can see this bump right here. Okay. Yep. Okay. So this is very, very interesting. And this kind of blows people's minds away. So let's say they did that, right? It only increased the term by not very long. Okay. You went from ridiculous 87 to 93. So again, but check this out. This is what kind of got me. Okay. So right here in month 15, look at their balance. Okay. Their balance is 253 grand. Okay. In month 15. Okay. What I want you to look at is this. Month 16, not only do they take out their $39.90, they add another 20 grand to that. So their balance goes up from 253 to 270. Okay. How many months does it take for them to get back to this 253? Look at this. Okay. So right here, again, month 16, we're at 270. month 2, month 3, month 4, month 5. Between month 5 and 6, look at their balance. Okay, call it month 7. They're made whole again. They're right back to where they were before they took the money out. They don't have a car payment, and they have a $20,000 car that's fully paid off.
Yep.
You know what I mean? It's
and believe me, you walk in with $20,000 cash, you ain't paying $20,000.
Yeah, that's called buying power. Okay, so again, we can run all kinds of, everyone's situation is different, and I like kind of doing this on an individual basis because you can really get nitty gritty with this stuff. Okay, yeah. But that's the power in this. Okay, now there's different pretty cool, unique strategies that we can do to actually make this better. And one thing I will say is this calculator does not factor in when this money goes in and when this money comes out. And there's some tricks to the trade that we kind of teach people how to do so you can time things and it'll actually make it more efficient. Okay. So that's kind of the gist of how it works. Again, you have to have a biggie to this too is not all banks offer the ideal HELOC. So most banks have a HELOC product. Okay.
Yep.
But the terms can vary significantly from lender to lender because unlike mortgages, which are backed by the government, they're very cookie cutter. They can't sway from the terms, right? HELOCs are different. So it's that bank, it's bank portfolio money. So they can kind of create their own terms, whatever they're comfortable with. So the biggest thing that we provide, in my opinion, is we have specific lenders that have the most favorable terms. Okay. And they can make a huge difference. And a lot of these lenders that we're partnered up with, okay, we have people that you specifically contact and they understand this precisely. So it's not something that you have to try to educate your personal lender on. Trust me, I've tried and it's a waste of time. So
I was also there.
Yeah. You try to do that too, Joe?
Yeah, I got laughed at on the phone. And they told me the lady said nobody does that. I'm trying to unravel this whole strategy to her, and I'm like, yeah, I want to replace my mortgage with a first lien HELOC, and like I just threw it all up on her, right? And she was like, yeah, no, nobody does that. So
yeah, so that's for the time that we've allotted for this, that's kind of the basics on how it works. I know a lot of people still probably have questions, things they might seem unsure about. Okay. But again, it's very simple. It's very easy. It's just different. So you have to be willing to think differently and just be open-minded that there may be different tools out there that you can use that aren't heavily promoted by banks and lenders because it's not in their best interest. So take that for what it is. But I don't know about you, but I am not a fan of, most marketing in America because I see right through it. And it's in general, it's not for your benefit. It's not for the consumer's benefit. It's for their benefit. So
yeah,
we're trying to get on the other side of that. So, okay, let's burn through some questions here. And if you guys have more questions, you can kind of put them in here. And then what we'll do at the end of this, we might run over about 5 or 10 minutes, which if you got to leave, you can jump off or whatever. But if this is something that you want to look into, right, I'll put Joe, I don't know, can you put your email address in here in this chat or no?
I'm sure I can.
Okay, or you can give it to me and I'll put it in there. But if someone told you about this meeting, okay, and it's not Joe or I, talk to them and then work something out with them and they can connect with us and we can set up a time to chat. But okay. Let me see here. So looks like Michael answered a question. Is the HELOC interest rate lower than a 15 or 30-year mortgage rate? Total interest paid? Yes. Interest rate? Sometimes. Yes. This is a
good one. Right.
This is a really good one. And you really got to take a step back to get the gist of this. Okay.
Hey, could I actually tackle this one?
Go for it, man. Yes.
Ain't nobody paying 2.5% on their mortgage. That 30-year golden mortgage that they say that the rates are dropped, you're paying 50+% on your money. I think I'm being pretty generous by saying 50.
Yeah.
Look at that total that little number. That is nothing, exactly what Adam just said. It is a marketing scam. It is not what you're paying. You're paying that every month. That adds up to north of 60% you're paying on your money. Believe me, you're building the bank a house before you're paying for yours. I mean, that's their security blanket. Hey, we'll give you the money, but this is how much it's going to cost. And they wrap it up in a little number there. So the way, it really doesn't matter. Once you understand how the math works, I don't really care. Give me a 6.5% HELOC, which that's not going to happen. But if I can pay off that line of credit at 6.5%, and I don't care about what the interest rate is. People, I did in the beginning. I was like, oh man, I want to go interest rate. I don't care. Like, it's because I see how the math works at it now. My current one, I think, is like 4.19. And I'll tell you, this is something people will scare you with. Oh, Helocs have adjustable rate mortgages, assuming that mortgages always go up. Like, they've done nothing but go down for like the longest time now. That's all you ever hear about is how mortgage rates are dropping. But once you understand, once you understand how the math works, if you're putting your whole paycheck on a 5% rate, you become interest rate immune. You just don't feel it. So the last thing you need to be concerned about is the interest rate, or scared away from an adjustable rate or anything like that. Like, if you can't get off of the interest rate, take the mortgage.
Yeah. Just
take the mortgage.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, there are banks that you can get a fixed rate on the HELOC, but that's a whole other discussion. But that's what they sell. Mortgage lenders and banks, they're selling you on the rate. Okay.
Yep.
So every time they sell you on the rate, what happens? You're incentivized to refinance. So you're starting the amortization process all over again. So the majority of your payment is going where? To the banks. And every time you do that, they collect closing costs every time. So you tell me the rate doesn't matter. Okay. Yeah. So total interest. Yeah. Always look at the volume. Okay. Let's see what else we got here. Comment, this program has changed completely, been a game changer for me and my family. By the way, even though I'm already in the program, I attend almost every call. Cool. Does it have to be on a primary home, or can I use this for an investment property? Yes, you can use this for an investment property as long as it's under 4 units. Okay, so if it's 5 units or above, that's considered a commercial loan. Can't do it in that case. So yes, a single family, duplex, triplex, quad. Yes, we have lenders that do investment properties. Okay.
Yeah, remember this, what looks like it's all about the terms. Every bank is there. Michael says it a lot. It differs from bank to bank, credit union. They all have different terms. Some of them allow for second home or investment properties, and some of them don't. Some of them are just strictly, primary residence. So there's a lot of different options out there. You just have to see what's going to work best for you in your situation.
Yeah. Okay. So here's one. So say, for example, I have $100K left in my mortgage with 2.5% interest. What interest rate can I get with this new refinance? Okay. So it ranges. Some banks will actually give you an introductory rate for, I've seen as low as 1.99%, 2.99% for the first 6 months or the first year. But again, I do talk to a lot of people that they're getting close to paying their mortgage off, and they say, well, I'm getting so close, most of my payments going towards principal. Why would I get a HELOC? Well, maybe you just want to be liquid. Maybe you want to have access to that asset. You've dumped all this extra money into it for however many years. Maybe you want to have access to that money. To me, liquidity is a huge aspect. It's not always just about paying it off, but having access to money. So But in a lot of cases, I mean, it still might make sense. In most cases, I think it does. It would be more individualized to kind of dig through the numbers. And it would depend on your cash flow too. That's one of the biggest factors to this. Not so much the rate, the cash flow. So
Yeah, that's right.
my first mortgage, I had a 7-year ARM. Is HELOC like an ARM? So typically in most cases, HELOCs have what's called a draw period. In most cases, it's 10 years. I've seen 15 years or 20 years, but that draw period is the period where the account is open-ended. So you can put money in, you can take money out, okay? Once that draw period ends, then it will become like an ARM, similar, not an ARM, but like a mortgage, right? You'll have a
payment,
yes,
20 years.
correct. Yep. Yep. So me personally, if I'm getting close to the end of my draw period, guess what I'm going to do? I'm just going to refinance into a new HELOC.
Yep.
So again, but yeah, that's a good question. Housing market is at all-time high. So appraisal this year is high. What happens if the housing market goes down and I lost, say, 30K in the appraisal? Would that matter? Not if you have the HELOC in place. I mean, banks kind of learned their lesson in the last market crash. I mean, they were lending out 100% loan to value on houses. So, if you're lending out 100% of the value of the house and the house drops, that's why they've backed off. So that's why they'll only go up to 90%, between 80 and 90%. So that way, with the way houses are appreciating right now, right, if it does go down, they're still going to be in a safer position. So, but yeah, I mean, the HELOC, the line of credit that you'll get is based on the appraisal. Okay, so again, that's a good point. The housing market is up right now. Okay, so the equity is there. So, get access to it while it's there because it's not guaranteed. I mean, real estate fluctuates. It's typically going to go up, but there's dips and we don't know when those dips are. So
yeah.
Hopefully that helps. So after taking out my expenses, the remaining $4,000 is payment to the HELOC balance. Yes, exactly. So again, whenever you put money into the HELOC, whatever that amount is, what it does first is it reduces your principal first. Then the interest is recalculated off of that lower balance. So that's kind of the trick.
Yeah, that's part of that secret sauce I was mentioning earlier, that you pay it's based off a simple interest payment to where an amortized loan, it recasts once a month and you pay based on the previous month. Well, this recasts daily. So it's basing your interest rates based off the previous day's balance. So that's knock your socks off like awesome when it comes to this strategy. That's how you just, like, I'll say tens and tens and tens, but it really doesn't do it justice. It's like hundreds of thousands of dollars that you save in interest because that one simple strategy of being able to put all your money in and it recasts daily.
Yep. Yeah, you can interrupt it every day. You can't do that with a mortgage.
Correct.
So, all right, let's see. Joe's email's in here. Okay.
Did I do it right? Is it joe.helms411@gmail.com?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Can you use HELOC money to construct a specified home? You can use that money for whatever you want.
Yeah.
I don't advise people to use it to, like Joe touched on earlier, to buy a boat. Jeff, you got something to say?
That's a speculative home. In other words, can you use the money to make a new build? Like
great question. And yes, you can use the money for whatever you want. Okay, so if you want to use it to buy a rental property or rehab a rental property or put a down payment on a different home, you can do that. Okay.
One other question, that if you owned a bare lot or an empty lot and you wanted to build a home that you forecast selling in the future, could you get a HELOC on that empty lot?
Oh, no, you could not.
A speculative build.
Yes, there has to be a property for the bank to collateralize. So they're not going to collateralize land. It has to be a residential property. Yep.
Yeah, you would need to get a construction loan.
Mhm.
Right.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep. All I know is I have never had $350,000 liquid in the bank in my life until now. I am about as regular of a guy as they come. I still don't have all of this figured out, but the people in the RYM group have all the answers. And we'll
That's
share
right.
whatever, yeah, we'll share
I
whatever
love that.
information you need to get it done. This program works. Okay, cool. Wasn't sure where he
I
was
love
heading with
that.
that, but
I love that.
yeah.
I love that. I spoke to a guy the other day in my car for 7 minutes. His wife saw a video. Well, his wife was friends with my wife, and she saw a video that I posted. She told her husband about it. I got his number. I called him. Never met this guy. 7 minutes on my lunch break. Went out in the car and talked to him. Just gave him a quick breakdown of his numbers, and he was like, well, "I don't understand much of this, but I'm in, man. If that's how it works, you do it. Where do I sign up?" And I'm like,
Right.
you are going to be really good at this.
Yeah, I have some short ones and I have some long ones and that take months, but hey,
Yeah.
everyone kind of goes at their own pace. So okay, so let's see. Looks like Michael answered this. Can you calculate numbers for a 15-year mortgage at 2% rates for 250 grand? How much interest am I saving? Yep, we can do all that too. Do that quite a bit. Let's see here. Is the difference between a HELOC and a cash out refinance the same as the daily versus monthly recalculation? Well, I mean, a cash out refinance, cash out refinance is you're getting a separate mortgage, or you're taking money out and you're creating the mortgage that you had that was this size to be bigger. So yeah, it's from what I'm reading. I'm not sure if that's what he's asking, but
They're definitely not the same thing.
yeah,
They don't operate any. You do cash out refi. Okay, well, you got access to the equity in your home, but now your mortgage payment's higher, and
Yep.
most likely you also refinanced it back to a 30-year. So it's really a win for the bank. It is a much smaller win for you than it is a huge win for the bank.
yeah. Okay. Okay, so unless anyone else has any other questions, so what we're going to do is, if you guys can read in this chat box.
Thank you, Kieran.
Yeah, if this is something that you want to look into, and again, it's very customized based on your individual numbers. So
Yep.
we would have to take a look at, what's your income, what are your expenses, what do you owe in the house, do you have debts, what's your credit score, all these kind of things, and then
Okay.
Go ahead.
I got something I'll cover really quick.
Yep.
Full disclosure, there is a cost to
Yep.
be part of the Replace Your Mortgage group. And I don't remember the exact number. I think it's like $39.95 or something like it's right around $4,000. But I know that can be like super intimidating, like, oh, I don't have $4,000. I got it. I was literally the same person. But I also saw I can pay my home off in 6 years. So I couldn't reconcile that, not paying that. And fun little thing, there's a couple different ways you can recoup this money in 2 or 3 months. I know for me, I set up my refinance to a HELOC to take about 2 months. And so I saved 2 months of mortgage payments. So I essentially paid like $500 to join the biggest group that this group has changed my life. Believe me, there are things that I want to tell you guys that it's just like, I can't get there yet. This is the first step. This is definitely the first step, but you can also just put it on a card and roll it into the HELOC. If you have, you're going to have the room in your home equity line of credit. That way you never even feel it. And you just saw firsthand how quick $20,000 got diminished. We're talking $4,000 here. No, if it's about $4,000, don't let it be about the money. Don't let we believe me, that part can be figured out. So yeah, there's that. I just want to be upfront.
It's funny to me. People don't bat an eye paying closing costs every time they refinance, or paying all the additional. They don't even bat an eye on that. But to get into a better situation, and yeah, it is what it is, man. But yeah, I like that. I would rather let that be known rather than not tell people that and then say, hey, set up a call with us and then go through an hour conversation, then drop. That's not how I operate. So I think a lot of people like that. They like to know, like, hey, this, but it's legitimate. So it's not, it's one of those things. But yeah, if someone referred you to this video, like, contact them and they'll get a hold of Joe or I, or I think our emails are both in this chat box. So if you just want to talk about it, and again, if you just want to talk, maybe it's not a good fit for you, but it's good to just kind of take a look at it and see, and then maybe it is, maybe it's not, maybe it will be in the future. I've had a lot of people that we look at things and they're just not quite there yet. So I'll help them, like, this is what you need to do. You need to get this in order, that in order. Once you're to this point, reach back out to me and we'll kind of see how things are. And so it takes time. Everyone's different, but.
All right, Adam. I think we're good, man.
Yep. So that's it. Thanks everyone for joining us. And
thank you, guys.
Yep. And again, if you ever want to one more thing real quick, you guys can actually get on this website, replaceyourmortgage.com. Okay. And you can play around with that calculator yourself.
Yep.
So something to think about. So
scroll down to the bottom. Scroll down to the bottom of the page and it says Heloc Calculator.
Yep.
I think that's where it's at. Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Okay, awesome. Guys.
Well, thank y'all so much for joining.
Yep. You guys, everyone have a good night. Okay.
Here's to winning.
Yep. See ya.
Adios.